Audrey, you have a very fascinating story I'd like you to share with our audience, rather unique. Please do so.
Well, first of all, it's how I think my involvement to Hadassah is, for me, the beginning of one road, but it is the story that led to that, the road, the paths that led to my story with Hadassah, I think is my personal story from my childhood. First of all, you introduced me as Audrey Shimron. That is my married name. I am originally Audrey Al-Khadef. I am of Greek origin. My parents are both Greek. Both of them born in Greece. The family originates from the very, very beautiful and picturesque island of Rhodes, where our family was for over 500 years, since the expulsion of the Jews from Spain. And the eve of the Second World War saw the end of an era and basically affected ultimately my life completely. My families both left for the island of Rhodes in the 1930s. My mother's side of the family left to mainland Athens. My father's side of the family, for reasons that I'm not quite clear on, decided to go to Africa and landed up in Rhodesia. My father arrived in Rhodesia as a young boy of 8 and found himself fighting in the British South African forces in the Second World War. He fought in Italy, and at the end of the war, he was called, everyone knew that he was this Jewish boy from the island of Rhodes and spoke, among other things, Ladino. And he was called and he was asked to come and help with the translation for 8 young girls who had been released from Auschwitz. I think that was one of the most defining moments in his life. When he sat there in front of these emaciated young girls, some of them whose names he recognized, they were part of his family, saw them with the tattoos on their hands, saw what had become of them and translated what he'd been asked. He was asked to translate what had happened to them. After a short while, he was released, and on his way home, he made 2 stops. He stopped, first of all, in Rhodes Island and realized that there was no one left of the family. Everyone had gone. And then he made another stop. He stopped in Eretz Israel. And it was at that moment that he decided that although he was going to go back to Rhodesia, he was going to do everything for the rest of his life that he could put towards a Jewish state. On the other side of that, my mother, whose family had gone to mainland Athens when the war came, and after the Italians came the Germans, and with the entry of the Germans, my grandfather put his family into hiding in the hills of Athens, and he was the only one that knew where everyone was, and he did not stay with them. And on Erev Pesach, 1943, he managed to arrange their escape. It's almost like The Sound of Music. They climbed through the mountains, through to Turkey, to the coastline, and then they made it to Eretz Israel. My mother spent the rest of the war years, a little girl, in Eretz Israel. On the way, she was, as the tiniest little girl, she was only 6 years old when she crossed those mountains. All the money of the family was actually sewn into her undergarments.
Oh, good Lord.
That's how she got out. And she had spent, this is after having spent 6 months, living in a village, in a family, pretending to be a little Catholic girl, saying her prayers every single day, making the cross, sign of the cross, sitting on the knee of the SS officer who was living in the house as well, who'd been billeted in the house while he played the piano. All these things together made a tremendous impact on the lives of my parents.
Reminds me a little bit of the story of Anna Frank, a little, how they lived in such deplorable conditions.
Yes, yes. And what it did to my parents, though, it made them, they both survived. They saw everyone around them pass away. They realized that everyone else did not survive. Very, very few of the Jewish community from Greece, from Rhodes Island specifically, survived all of this. They gave me the love of the Jewish people. They gave me the love and the need to build the state of Israel. And it's something that I think is the essence of my being, because I absorbed it without realizing it from the day I was born. And so it was at the ripe old age of 12 years old that I informed my parents, not realizing that basically that influenced me very, very traumatically, that I informed my parents that I was going to live in Israel. And I was very taken aback when they said, "Darling, of course, why not?" And they gave me encouragement all through the way. The day I finished my A-levels, we have a similar background, Rhodesia was a British colony. The day I finished my A-levels, I wrote my last exam in the morning, and that night I was in the plane to Israel. And I never looked back. And yet, the reality of living in Israel is very different from the Zionist dream. Suddenly you're faced with having to go to the supermarket and the rudeness and the heat, and suddenly you turn around yourself one day and you say, but I wanted to help the Jewish people. I wanted to be a part of the history of building this country. How am I going to do it? And I don't know, fate, God, something came my way, and I saw an advertisement in the newspaper looking for someone in PR at a large institution in Jerusalem. I answered the ad. It's 27 years ago, and it was Hadassah. And the work of Hadassah, and we spoke now about the college and we spoke now about the hospital, but it's also about youth aliyah. It's about children at risk. It's about bringing in those children from all over the world still today. It's about taking children from the worst families in Israel and giving them a home and bringing them up and giving them education. It's about bringing youth from the United States and from England, bringing them over to Israel and keeping that sense of identity and Jewish continuity. And working for Hadassah for 27 years has given me that sense of what I dreamt that I needed to do since the day I was born. It's just, it all came together working for this incredible organization.
And to conclude, Audrey, how do you see the future in Jerusalem and with Hadassah and your work?
I think that we are on the eve of the 2nd century. I know, being here at this convention today, hearing the excitement, the tremendous excitement, I know that Hadassah is going to go from strength to strength. We've done incredible things in the most difficult times. It's a women's organization, and women are very practical, and they have an incredible amount of strength, and even if the times are adverse, sometimes that's when they do their best, and I believe that we're looking into the next century of unbelievable work for Hadassah in Jerusalem.
I'd like to express my great appreciation to you and to Hadassah for all the wonderful work you do for Israel. Thank you for being on our show.
Thank you, Richard. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
We'll come to visit you sometime in Israel.
I look forward to it.
Thank you.
In Jerusalem.
Of course.
Thank you.
I'll be right back.
The previous tower was completed in 1961, and the building is just old, cannot handle the capacity.
It's time for a new building, that's just a fact. And this one is being created with such forethought. This hospital is really cutting edge.
The tower unites the most advanced medical technologies with a profound spirit of healing. It's a celebration of Hadassah's centennial and a promise to serve for the next 100 years.
This is 14 floors above the ground, 5 underground, with an awareness we need to be prepared in case, God forbid, there should be chemical warfare. The government said we had to have 300 to 400 rooms that could handle that kind of a problem. And that's why all the operating rooms have been put underground.
I also, as a nurse, I know that the physical environment can impact the healing process. If you're in an environment that's conducive to healing, then you're going to get better much faster.
It's not for glory, it's not for good looks, it's for people.
We will be able to provide for our doctors a state-of-the-art place to work, to carry out their research, to heal patients.
The impact of the research that goes on at Hadassah Hospital has the potential to impact every patient and every hospital bed around the world.
Anything they find, anything they discover becomes public property. And I admire that, and they have my loyalty because of that. They are on the leading edge of what is happening in not just stem cell research, but in all aspects of medicine.
We could sense within that hospital that through medicine, that it could create a strong bridge for peace.
It's practical Zionism. We're actively connecting and engaging with the land of Israel.
This project is going to change the landscape physically and emotionally of Jerusalem and the state of Israel, and there is something for everyone in that hospital to be a part of.
Whatever we can do as a family to be supportive of both the hospital and Israel is what we will do. Because if we can't do it, who else will?
This is happening. It's happening now. You have to realize what's going to happen in this hospital. How many lives are going to be extended and saved? How much research is going to be done? That's what we're building.
This brings us to the end of our special show for today. From On Location in Hollywood, I'm Richard Peritz. Thank you for being with us.